First contact. The vastness of space stretched out before Captain Elena Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel. The ship had been cruising through uncharted territory for months, seeking new worlds and hopefully new life. So far, their journey had yielded fascinating astronomical data, but no signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Zhang, her eyes fixed on the sensor readouts. "We're picking up an anomalous energy signature. It's unlike anything we've encountered before." Reyes leaned forward, her heart rate quickening. "Source." "It appears to be coming from a ship, ma'am, not one of ours." A hush fell over the bridge. The crew exchanged glances, a mixture of excitement and apprehension on their faces. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, yet now that it was here, an undercurrent of fear rippled through the air. "Tactical assessment," Reyes asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Commander Ortiz, the tactical officer, studied his console intently. "The vessel's size and energy output suggest advanced technology, Captain, but there are no signs of weapons powering up or shields being raised. Their approach seems cautious." Reyes nodded, processing the information. "Open a channel, all frequencies. Let's see if they're in a talking mood." As the communications officer worked to establish contact, Reyes couldn't help but marvel at the alien ship that had appeared on their view screen. It was sleek and organic in design, almost like a living creature. Iridescent patterns shifted across its hull, reminiscent of light playing on water. "Channel open, Captain," the comm officer reported. Reyes took a deep breath. The weight of humanity's first contact with an alien species rested on her shoulders. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Spaceship Horizon. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly communication." Seconds ticked by, feeling like an eternity. Then, a response came through. The universal translator struggled for a moment before rendering the alien words into English. "Greetings, vessel of Earth. This is Research Director Zaxlian of the Galactic Confederation's scout ship Luminous Seeker. We too come with peaceful intent." A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. "We're pleased to make your acquaintance, Research Director. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our crews to facilitate cultural exchange." There was a pause before Zaxlian replied. "Your proposal is unexpected. Our protocols typically call for a period of remote observation before direct interaction." Reyes frowned. She could sense the opportunity slipping away. "With all due respect, Director, we humans believe that the best way to understand each other is through face-to-face interaction. We're explorers, driven by curiosity. Surely, as fellow researchers, you can appreciate that." Another pause, longer this time. Reyes held her breath, hoping her appeal to scientific curiosity would sway the alien leader. Finally, Zaxlian spoke again. "Your argument has merit, Captain Reyes. We will agree to a limited exchange. Please prepare a small delegation to board our vessel." Excitement buzzed through the bridge crew. Reyes nodded, trying to maintain her composure. "Excellent. We'll ready a team immediately. Thank you for your openness, Director." As the communication ended, Reyes turned to her crew. "Ortiz, Zhang, you're with me. Dr. Patel, as our xenobiologist, your expertise will be crucial. Let's make humanity proud." The team made their way to the shuttle bay, each lost in their own thoughts about the momentous encounter ahead. As they boarded the shuttle, Reyes noticed Dr. Patel's hands shaking slightly. "Nervous, Doctor?" she asked gently. Patel gave a weak smile. "Terrified and exhilarated in equal measure, Captain. Everything I've trained for, everything I've dreamed of, it all comes down to this moment." Reyes placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're all feeling it. Just remember, beneath those alien exteriors, they're scientists like us. Curiosity is the universal language." The shuttle detached from the horizon and made its way towards the Luminous Seeker. As they drew closer, the alien ship's true scale became apparent. It dwarfed the horizon, its hull shimmering with colors that seemed to defy the visible spectrum. A docking bay opened, bathing their shuttle in soft purple light. Reyes took a deep breath as their craft settled onto the alien deck. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go make some new friends." The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor that seemed to pulse with life. The walls were covered in intricate, flowing patterns that shifted and changed as they watched. At the end of the corridor stood 3 figures. The aliens were tall and slender, with 4 arms and iridescent skin that reminded Reyes of the abalone shells she had collected as a child. Their large, multifaceted eyes regarded the humans with unmistakable curiosity. The central figure stepped forward. "I am Research Director Zaxxlian. Welcome aboard the Luminous Seeker." Reyes stepped forward to meet him, extending her hand in the traditional Earth greeting. "Thank you for your hospitality, Director. I'm Captain Elena Reyes." Zaxxlian looked at her outstretched hand, then back at her face. After a moment's hesitation, he reached out with one of his lower arms and grasped her hand gently. "This is a greeting ritual." "Yes," Reyes smiled. "A handshake. It symbolizes peace and friendship." The alien's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with interest. "Fascinating. Physical contact as a social convention. We have much to learn from each other, Captain Reyes." As the 2 leaders continued their exchange, Dr. Patel found herself drawn to one of the other aliens. This one seemed younger, its movements more energetic, its gaze darting between the humans with unbridled curiosity. The young alien noticed Patel's attention and approached. "Greetings, Earth scientist. I am Lyrixa, junior xenobiologist. Your species is most intriguing." Patel felt a surge of excitement. A fellow xenobiologist. "Hello, Lyrixa. I'm Dr. Amiora Patel, xenobiologist for the Horizon. I must say, your ship is incredible. The bioorganic architecture is unlike anything we've ever seen." Lyrix's skin rippled with what Patel guessed was pleasure. "Thank you. The Luminous Seeker is a product of millennia of bioengineering. But tell me, Dr. Patel, how do humans navigate the cosmos in vessels of cold metal?" As the 2 scientists began to chat animatedly, comparing notes on their respective technologies, Reyes couldn't help but smile. This was what exploration was all about, the exchange of ideas, the breaking down of barriers between different cultures. However, her optimism was tempered by the reactions of some of her crew. Lieutenant Zhang kept glancing nervously at the shifting walls, while Ortiz's hand never strayed far from his sidearm. The aliens, too, seemed to be maintaining a careful distance, their bodies angled slightly away from the humans. Zaxxlian must have noticed the tension as well. "Perhaps," he suggested, "a tour of our research facilities would help ease any lingering apprehensions. Knowledge, after all, is the antidote to fear." Reyes nodded gratefully. "That's an excellent idea, Director. Lead the way." As they moved deeper into the ship, the humans marveled at the advanced technology on display. Holographic displays flickered with data from 1,000 worlds. Strange creatures floated in shimmering stasis fields, subjects of ongoing studies. Dr. Patel and Lyrixa lagged behind the main group, deep in conversation. "So, your species reproduces through binary fission?" Patel asked, fascinated. Lyrix's skin flushed a deep blue. "Yes, though the process is more complex than simple division. But what of humans? Your physical dimorphism suggests a different reproductive strategy." Patel chuckled. "That's a conversation that might require a bit more cultural context, Lyrixa. Let's just say it's a bit more hands-on than fission." The young alien's eyes widened. "Hands-on? You mean physical contact is involved in reproduction as well as greetings? How wonderfully efficient." Their laughter drew curious looks from both groups. Reyes felt a spark of hope. If a human and an alien could find common ground in scientific curiosity and humor, perhaps this encounter truly could lead to lasting friendship between their peoples. But as they rounded a corner, that hope was abruptly challenged. A massive holographic display dominated the next chamber, showing a detailed map of the galaxy. And there, clearly marked, was Earth. Ortiz's hand flew to his weapon. "Captain, they know our location. This could be a threat too." "Stand down, Lieutenant." Reyes barked, but the damage was done. The aliens recoiled, a skin flashing warning colors. Zaxxalian's lower arms moved to a panel on his suit, likely a security measure. In that moment, balanced on a nice edge between peace and conflict, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Reyes knew her next words could determine the course of human history. She took a deep breath, raised her empty hands, and prepared to navigate the treacherous waters of first contact. Cultural exchange. The tension in the room was palpable. Captain Reyes stood with her hands raised, her mind racing to find the right words to diffuse the situation. She locked eyes with Zaxxalian, trying to convey calm and reason through her gaze alone. "Director Zaxxalian," she began, her voice steady and diplomatic, "I apologize for my officer's reaction. Please understand, we come from a world that has known conflict. Our caution is born from a desire to protect, not to threaten." Zaxxalian's multifaceted eyes studied her intently. The alien's skin gradually shifted from the alarming reds and oranges of moments ago to a more neutral blue. "Your honesty is appreciated, Captain Reyes. Perhaps it would be beneficial for both our species to speak more openly about our concerns and intentions." Reyes nodded, relief washing over her. "I couldn't agree more. Lieutenant Ortiz, stand down. That's an order." Ortiz hesitated for a moment before lowering his hand from his weapon. The other aliens visibly relaxed, their colors returning to normal. Dr. Petel stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her apprehension. "If I may, Director, how is it that you have Earth's location? We've only recently developed interstellar travel capabilities." Zaxxalian gestured to the holographic display. "Our civilization has been observing yours for some time, Dr. Petel. We've been fascinated by your rapid technological advancement and cultural evolution. However, our protocols dictated non-interference until you achieved interstellar travel." This revelation sent a ripple of murmurs through the human delegation. They had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, and now they learned they had been watched all along. Reyes processed this information quickly. "I see. And now that we have achieved interstellar travel, what are your intentions towards Earth and humanity?" Zaxxalian's upper arms made a gesture that the universal translator interpreted as conciliatory. "Our intentions are purely scientific and diplomatic, Captain. The Galactic Confederation believes in peaceful coexistence and the sharing of knowledge. We hope that this encounter can be the beginning of a mutually beneficial relationship between our peoples." As the two leaders continued their discussion, Dr. Petel found herself drawn back into conversation with Lirexa. The young alien seemed just as eager to learn about humans as Petel was to learn about their species. "Dr. Petel," Lirexa began, their voice filled with excitement, "I'm curious about something I observed earlier. When your captain and our director were speaking, I noticed minute muscle movements in their facial regions. Does this have some significance in human communication?" Patel smiled, impressed by the alien's observational skills. "Indeed it does, Lirexa. We call them facial expressions. They're nonverbal cues that can convey emotions and intentions. For example, this," she said, pointing to a smile, "typically indicates happiness or friendliness." Lirexa's eyes widened with fascination. "Remarkable. Our species communicates emotions primarily through color changes in our skin. The idea of using facial musculature for communication is intriguing. It seems so subtle compared to our method." As they continued their exchange, Lirexa demonstrated how their species could rapidly shift skin colors to convey complex emotional states. In turn, Petel explained the nuances of human body language and facial expressions. Meanwhile, Captain Reyes and Director Zaxxalian had moved their discussion to a more private setting, a conference room with a breathtaking view of both their ships floating in the starry void. "I must admit, Captain," Zaxxalian said, his tone more relaxed now that they were away from the earlier tension, Your species has surprised us. Your technological progress in the last century alone has been unprecedented in our records." Reyes nodded, a hint of pride in her voice. Humanity has always been driven by a desire to understand, to explore. It's led us to great achievements, but also great conflicts. We're still learning to balance our curiosity with wisdom. Zaxalian's skin shimmered thoughtfully. A familiar struggle. Our own history is not without its dark chapters. Perhaps this is why the Confederation values the exchange of knowledge and culture so highly. We believe it leads to greater understanding and peace. As they talked, Reyes began to see the aliens in a new light. Despite their different biology and advanced technology, they faced many of the same challenges and hopes as humanity. The realization was both humbling and inspiring. Back in the main chamber, Lieutenant Zhang had overcome her initial nervousness and was engaged in an animated discussion with one of the alien engineers about propulsion systems. Even the wary Ortiz found himself drawn into a conversation about tactical operations and defense strategies with his alien counterpart. Dr. Patel and Lirexa, however, had moved beyond mere scientific exchange. Their conversation had taken a more personal turn. "So, Lirexa," Patel asked, her eyes twinkling with curiosity, "do your people have something analogous to what we call friendship? Bonds between individuals not based on biological relation or professional necessity?" Lirexa's skin rippled with a soft, warm glow. "We do, though perhaps not in the same way as humans. Our communal nature means we're always connected to our peers, but we do form closer bonds with some individuals. It's more of a resonance of minds than what I understand human friendship to be." Patel nodded, fascinated. "That sounds beautiful in its own way. Human friendships can be complex, but at their best, they're a source of joy, support, and understanding." "Like what we're forming now?" Lirexa asked, their skin flushing a deep, rich purple. Patel felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Yes, I suppose it is. I'm glad we met, Lirexa." As the hours passed, the initial tension between the two groups melted away, replaced by a genuine camaraderie. Ideas were exchanged, cultural misunderstandings were clarified with good humor, and the foundations of a true interspecies friendship were laid. When it came time for the human delegation to return to their ship, there was a palpable sense of reluctance on both sides. Reyes and Zaxalian stood at the airlock, their postures mirroring each other in a way that spoke of newfound respect. "This has been an enlightening experience, Captain Reyes," Zaxalian said, his tone warm. "We would be honored if you and your crew would consider an extended stay in this sector. There is much more we could learn from each other." Reyes smiled broadly. "The honor would be ours, Director. I'll need to consult with my superiors back on Earth, but I believe they'll be as excited about this opportunity as we are." As the rest of the human delegation said their goodbyes, Dr. Patel lingered for a moment with Lirexa. "I have so many more questions," Patel said, her voice tinged with regret. Lirexa's skin shimmered with a mix of colors that the universal translator struggled to interpret. "As do I, Dr. Patel. Perhaps we could continue our discussions. I could show you more of our research, and you could tell me more about Earth." Patel's face lit up. "I'd like that very much, Lirexa." As the airlock closed and the human shuttle detached from the luminous seeker, both crews watched from their respective viewports. The scene was no longer one of two alien ships regarding each other with suspicion, but of two groups of explorers, scientists, and potential friends united by their shared curiosity about the universe and each other. Back on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Captain Reyes looked out at the stars, a new perspective coloring her view. The universe had just become a much bigger, more wondrous place, and humanity, it seemed, was ready to take its place among the stars. But as she prepared to send her report back to Earth, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a note of caution. They had taken the first steps towards friendship with an alien species, yes, but the journey ahead was long and fraught with potential misunderstandings and conflicts. The true test of this newfound relationship was yet to come. Little did they know, That test would arrive sooner than anyone could have anticipated. Crisis on the horizon. The days that followed the initial contact were a whirlwind of activity. The crew of the ESS Horizon and the Luminous Seeker engaged in a flurry of cultural and scientific exchanges. Earth's governments had enthusiastically approved the extended mission, eager for the knowledge and potential technological advancements this encounter could bring. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching as another shuttle departed for the alien vessel. Dr. Patel was among the passengers, her excitement palpable even from a distance. The xenobiologist had formed a particularly close bond with Lurexa, the young alien scientist. "Captain," Lieutenant Zhang called out, her voice tinged with concern. "I'm picking up some strange readings from the nearby star system." Reyes turned, her brow furrowing. "Define strange, Lieutenant." Zhang's fingers flew over her console. Massive gravitational fluctuations, energy spikes off the charts. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Before Reyes could respond, a priority communication came through from the Luminous Seeker. Director Zaxxalian's holographic form materialized on the bridge, his skin a swirl of agitated colors. "Captain Reyes," he began, his normally calm voice edged with urgency. "Are you detecting the anomaly in the neighboring system?" Reyes nodded grimly. "We are, Director. Do you have any insight into what we're dealing with?" Zaxxalian's lower arms moved in a gesture of grave concern. "I'm afraid we may be witnessing the early stages of a hypernova event. The star in that system is collapsing at an unprecedented rate." A chill ran through the bridge crew. A hypernova was one of the most violent events in the universe, capable of releasing more energy in seconds than their sun would in its entire lifetime. "What are the implications, Director?" Reyes asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "If our calculations are correct," Zaxxalian replied, his skin darkening to a deep, worried blue, "the resulting gamma-ray burst could sterilize its entire sector of space. Both our vessels are in grave danger." Reyes felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. "How long do we have?" "Hours at most," Zaxxalian said. "We're already preparing to evacuate the system, but..." He paused, his multifaceted eyes flickering with what Reyes had come to recognize as distress. "Our faster-than-light drive was damaged during our last long-range jump. We can't achieve the speed necessary to outrun the wavefront." The implications hit Reyes like a physical blow. The horizon could escape, but the Luminous Seeker, with its vastly larger crew, would be doomed. She looked around at her bridge crew, seeing the same realization dawning on their faces. "Director," Reyes said, her voice firm with resolve, "we're not going anywhere without you. There has to be a solution, and we're going to find it together." Zaxxalian's skin rippled with a complex pattern of colors. "Your offer is appreciated, Captain, but we cannot ask you to sacrifice your ship and crew for us." "With all due respect, Director," Reyes countered, "you're not asking. We're offering. Humanity doesn't abandon its friends." There was a moment of silence as Zaxxalian processed this. Finally, he spoke, his voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "Very well, Captain. Let us combine our knowledge and resources. Perhaps together, we can find a way to survive this catastrophe." Over the next hour, the two ships became a hive of frantic activity. Scientists and engineers from both crews worked side by side, poring over data, running simulations, and proposing increasingly desperate plans. In the Luminous Seeker's main research lab, Dr. Patel and Lurexa huddled over a holographic display, that earlier camaraderie now sharpened by the urgency of their task. "If we could somehow create a temporary wormhole," Patel mused, her eyes scanning rows of complex equations, "we might be able to redirect enough of the gamma-ray burst to save both ships." Lurex's skin flickered with rapid color changes, a sign of intense concentration. "The energy requirements would be astronomical, Amira. Even if we combined the power of both our ships, it wouldn't be nearly enough." Patel ran a hand through her hair, frustration evident in her gesture. "There has to be something we're missing, some way to amplify our available energy." As they brainstormed, Captain Reyes and Director Zaxxillian coordinated the efforts of both crews. Ideas were proposed and discarded in rapid succession. Use the horizon to tow the luminous seeker. The difference in mass made it impossible. Create a massive shield. They lacked the materials and time. Every potential solution seemed to lead to a dead end. Hours ticked by, and the situation grew increasingly dire. The star's collapse was accelerating, defying all known models of stellar physics. "Captain," Lieutenant Ortiz called out, his voice tense, "the wavefront will reach us in less than 2 hours. We're running out of time." Reyes felt the pressure mounting. She had made the decision to stay, to risk her ship and crew in an attempt to save their new alien friends. If they failed, the cost would be catastrophic. Not just the loss of life, but the loss of the first peaceful contact between humanity and an alien civilization. Just as despair began to set in, an excited shout came from the comm system. It was Dr. Petal, her voice breathless with excitement. "Captain, Director, I think we found something." Reyes and Zaxxillian exchanged a look of cautious hope. "Go ahead, Doctor," Reyes said. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Petal explained rapidly. "Instead of trying to deflect or absorb the energy of the gamma-ray burst, what if we could ride it?" There was a moment of stunned silence. "Ride it?" Reyes echoed, incredulous. "Doctor, are you suggesting we use the most destructive force in the universe as a propulsion system?" "Precisely." Petal's enthusiasm was contagious. "Lyrixa and I have been studying the quantum fluctuation patterns in the collapsing star. There's a split-second window where the wavefront could be harmonized with our ship's energy fields. If we time it perfectly, we could use the burst to catapult both vessels to safety." Zaxxillian's skin rippled with a complex pattern that the universal translator interpreted as a mixture of awe and skepticism. The precision required would be beyond anything we've ever attempted. The slightest miscalculation could tear both ships apart. "It's risky," Reyes agreed, "but right now, it's the only plan we've got." "Doctor, how quickly can you and Lyrixa prepare a detailed proposal?" "We're sending the data now, Captain," Petal replied. "But there's one more thing. For this to work, we need to modify both ships. The Horizon's FTL drive and the Luminous Seeker's bioorganic systems need to be partially integrated." Reyes could almost feel the tension radiating from her crew. The idea of merging their technology with the aliens was unprecedented. It would require a level of trust and cooperation beyond anything they had anticipated. She looked at Zaxxillian's holographic form, seeing her own mix of hope and apprehension mirrored in the alien's multifaceted eyes. "Well, Director," Reyes said, a wry smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of the situation, "it seems the universe has decided to test the strength of our newfound friendship sooner rather than later." Zaxxillian's skin shimmered with what Reyes had come to recognize as determination. "Indeed, Captain. Let us hope that together we are equal to the challenge." As both crews sprang into action, beginning the complex and delicate process of modifying their ships, Reyes couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Here they were, humans and aliens, working side by side to survive a cosmic catastrophe. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly unprecedented. In that moment, she realized that regardless of the outcome, this crisis had forged a bond between their species that might never have been possible otherwise. As she watched her crew work seamlessly alongside their alien counterparts, she felt a surge of pride and hope. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of interstellar relations. With renewed determination, Reyes turned to coordinate the monumental task ahead. The clock was ticking, the star was dying, and two civilizations hung in the balance. The greatest test of humanity's ingenuity and the aliens' advanced knowledge was about to begin. Unlikely heroes. The combined crews of the ESS Horizon and the Luminous Seeker worked with frantic urgency. Time seemed to simultaneously crawl and race as they raced against the clock to implement Dr. Patel and Lurex's audacious plan. On the Horizon's engineering deck, Chief Engineer Rodrigo Vasquez wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the schematics of the alien bioorganic systems. Beside him, his alien counterpart, Trellix, manipulated a holographic interface, its 4 arms moving in perfect synchronization. "This is insane," Vasquez muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. "We're basically performing a heart transplant on both ships at once." Trellix's skin rippled with what Vasquez had learned was amusement. An apt analogy, my human friend. Though perhaps it would be more accurate to say we're creating an entirely new circulatory system for both patients. Vasquez couldn't help but chuckle despite the stress. "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds even crazier. Let's just hope this Frankenstein's monster of a ship can outrun a hypernova." As the 2 engineers returned to their work, Dr. Patel and Lurexa were hunched over a complex array of instruments in the Luminous Seeker's main laboratory. They had taken on the crucial task of calculating the precise moment when the gamma-ray burst could be safely ridden. "The harmonics are still off," Patel said, frustration evident in her voice. "If we engage the drive even a microsecond too early or too late." Molecular disintegration, Lurexa finished, their skin a worried shade of deep purple. "Perhaps if we adjust the quantum field parameters." As they worked, the young alien scientist found their gaze drawn to their human counterpart. Lurexa marveled at Patel's determination, her ability to think creatively under pressure. It was a trait that seemed common among humans, this capacity to face impossible odds with ingenuity and courage. "Amira," Lurexa said softly, using the human's first name for the first time, "I want you to know, regardless of the outcome, working with you has been the most enriching experience of my life." Patel looked up, surprised by the sudden sentiment. She saw her own mix of fear and hope reflected in Lurexa's multifaceted eyes. "I feel the same way, Lurexa. Let's make sure we both live to have many more enriching experiences, shall we?" With renewed determination, they turned back to their calculations. On the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Reyes oversaw the chaotic symphony of human and alien cooperation. She had just finished a tense call with Earth Command, who were understandably concerned about the risk they were taking. "Captain," Lieutenant Jean called out, her voice tense. "The star's collapse is accelerating. We've lost another 15 minutes off our projected timeline." Reyes felt her stomach drop. "Understood. Inform all teams. We need to speed up our preparations." Just then, the holographic form of Director Zaxxillian materialized on the bridge. "Captain Reyes, we have a problem. Our bioorganic systems are rejecting some of the modifications. The integration is proving more difficult than anticipated." Reyes closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. "We'll find a way, Director. We have to. Patch me through to both crews." As Zaxxillian complied, Reyes straightened her uniform and faced the camera. She knew that what she said next could make the difference between success and failure, life and death. "This is Captain Reyes to all crew members of the Horizon and the Luminous Seeker. I know you're all aware of the gravity of our situation. We're attempting something that's never been done before, facing a threat more powerful than anything in human or Confederation history." She paused, looking around at her own crew and the alien faces on the various screens. "But I want you all to remember something. Just a few days ago, we were strangers, separated by light years and millennia of divergent evolution. Now, look at us, working side by side, combining our knowledge and skills in ways we never imagined possible." Reyes's voice grew stronger, filled with conviction. "That's our real strength. Not our technology, not our individual capabilities, but our ability to come together, to innovate and adapt. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before and survived. The Confederation has overcome challenges that would humble lesser civilizations. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts." She saw hope rekindling in the eyes of both humans and aliens. So I'm asking you now to dig deep. Find that extra reserve of strength, that spark of inspiration. We're not just fighting for our own survival, but for the future of interstellar cooperation. The universe is watching, and we will show it what we're capable of. Now, let's get back to work and make history. As the transmission ended, a cheer went up from both ships. The crews attacked their tasks with renewed vigor, the impossible suddenly seeming within reach. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Slowly but surely, the two ships were transformed. The Horizon's sleek hull now pulsed with lines of alien bioorganic tech, while the luminous Seeker's fluid form was augmented with angular human engineering. In the lab, Patel and Lirexa had a breakthrough. "We've got it," Patel shouted, her eyes wide with excitement. "The harmonic convergence point. We can ride the wave." On the engineering deck, Vasquez and Trellix finally overcame the integration issues. "It's not pretty," Vasquez reported, "but it'll hold together. Probably." As the final preparations were made, an eerie calm settled over both ships. They had done all they could. Now, it was time to put their fate in the hands of the cosmos. Reyes and Zaxxlian stood side by side on the Horizon's bridge, watching as the dying star grew ever larger on the viewscreen. Its unstable surface roiled with unimaginable energies, a sight both terrifying and beautiful. "You know," Reyes said softly, "when I took command of this mission, I never imagined it would lead to this." Zaxxlian's skin shimmered with a complex pattern of colors. "Nor did I, Captain, but I find I do not regret our meeting, despite the danger." Reyes nodded, a small smile on her face. "Neither do I, Director. Whatever happens next, we've made history. And if we survive, well, I have a feeling this is just the beginning." The star on the viewscreen flared suddenly, its death throes reaching a crescendo. Alarms blared across both ships as the moment of truth arrived. "All hands, brace for acceleration," Reyes called out. "Initiate the drive on my mark." As the gamma-ray burst began its journey across the cosmos, two ships, one human, one alien, now inexorably linked, prepared to attempt the impossible. In that moment, suspended between certain death and potential salvation, the combined crews of the Horizon and the luminous Seeker held their breath. They had done all they could. Now, it was up to the universe to decide their fate. The star exploded in a blinding flash of light, and history held its breath. Race against time. The blinding light of the hypernova filled every viewport and screen on both ships. For a brief, terrifying moment, it seemed as if the universe itself was being torn apart. "Mark!" Captain Reyes shouted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms and the groaning of stressed metal and bioorganic materials. In perfect synchronization, the hybrid drives of both ships roared to life. The Horizon and the luminous Seeker shuddered violently as the full force of the gamma-ray burst slammed into their hastily integrated systems. On the bridge, Reyes gripped her command chair, knuckles white. Beside her, Zaxxlian's lower arms clung to a support structure, his skin a whirl of colors that the universal translator interpreted as a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Status report," Reyes called out, her eyes fixed on the swirling maelstrom of energy surrounding the ships. Lieutenant Zhang's fingers danced across her console. "We're riding the wavefront, Captain. Speed it's off the charts. We're moving faster than our sensors can measure." A cheer went up from both human and alien crew members, but it was short-lived. Suddenly, the ships lurched violently, throwing several crew members to the floor. "What was that?" Reyes demanded, helping Zaxxlian regain his balance. Ortiz's voice was tense as he responded. "The integration is starting to break down, Captain. The stress is too much for the hybrid systems." In the engineering bay, Vasquez and Trellix worked feverishly to maintain the delicate balance between human and alien technology. "The quantum field is destabilizing," Trellix called out, its skin flashing warning colors. "If it collapses, both ships will be torn apart." Vasquez gritted his teeth, his hands flying over the controls. Not if I have anything to say about it. Rerouting power from non-essential systems. Trellix, can you boost the bioorganic field strength? The alien engineer's forearms moved in a blur of motion. Attempting now, but our reserves are nearly depleted. In the main laboratory, Dr. Patel and Lirexa watched in horror as their carefully calculated harmonic convergence began to falter. The quantum fluctuations are increasing exponentially, Lirexa said, then a voice tight with worry. We're losing our grip on the wave. Patel's mind raced, searching for a solution. Her eyes darted between the complex equations on the screen and the pulsing, integrated systems of the two ships. Suddenly, a wild idea struck her. Lirexa, she said, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. What if we intentionally desynchronize the harmonic convergence? The alien scientist's multifaceted eyes widened in shock. But that would tear the ships apart. Not if we do it right, Patel insisted. Look at the quantum field patterns. They're chaotic, yes, but there's underlying fractal structure. If we can match our desynchronization to that pattern. Lirex's skin rippled as they quickly grasped the implications. We could ride the chaos itself. A mirror, that's brilliant, and utterly insane. Patel grinned despite the dire circumstances. Welcome to humanity, my friend. Insane is what we do best. As they hurriedly began recalculating the quantum harmonics, the situation on the bridge grew increasingly desperate. Hull integrity down to 68%, Ortiz reported, his voice strained. At this rate, we've got minutes before total structural failure. Reyes turned to Zaxxillian, her expression grim. Director, we need options. Any ideas from your side? The alien leader's skin had turned a deep, worried blue. Our scientists are working on a solution, but... He was cut off by the sound of Patel's voice over the comm system. Captain, Director, we have a plan, but you're not going to like it. At this point, Dr. Reyes said, I'm open to anything. What have you got? As Patel and Lirexa quickly explained their idea, the expressions on the faces of both human and alien crew members ranged from disbelief to horror. You want us to intentionally desynchronize our systems? Zaxxillian asked, his voice filled with incredulity. The risk is enormous, Reyes finished for him. But right now, it's looking like our only shot. She took a deep breath, weighing the lives of both crews against the audacity of the plan. Do it, she said finally. Whatever you need, you've got it. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Patel and Lirexa coordinated with Vasquez and Trellix, making split-second adjustments to the hybrid systems of both ships. Initiating desynchronization in 3, 2, 1, mark. Patel's voice rang out. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Both ships began to shudder violently, alerts blaring from every console. Hull integrity critical. Ortiz shouted over the din. We're breaking apart. Reyes gripped her chair, her knuckles white. Hold together, she muttered, as much a prayer as a command. Come on, hold together. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if both ships would indeed be torn to shreds by the colossal forces at play. But then, almost miraculously, the violent shaking began to subside. It's working. Lirex's excited voice came over the comm. We're riding the quantum fluctuations. On the main view screen, the swirling chaos of the gamma-ray burst began to give way to streaks of light as both ships accelerated to speeds beyond anything their creators had ever imagined. Unbelievable, Jung whispered, her eyes wide as she stared at her readings. We're surfing the edge of space-time itself. For what seemed like an eternity, the Horizon and the Luminous Seeker rode the cosmic wave, their fates inextricably linked. Human and alien crew members alike held their breath, knowing that the slightest miscalculation could still spell their doom. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The view screen cleared, revealing a star field utterly unfamiliar to either crew. For a moment, there was complete silence on both ships as everyone tried to process what had just happened. It was Ortiz who finally broke the silence. "Captain," he said, his voice filled with awe, "according to our long-range scans, we're over 10,000 light-years from our starting position." A collective gasp went up from both crews. They had not only survived, but had made a journey that should have taken decades in a matter of minutes. Reyes turned to Zaxxillian, seeing her own mix of relief and amazement reflected in the alien leader's multifaceted eyes. "Well, Director," she said, a smile tugging at her lips despite her exhaustion, "I'd say this qualifies as a successful test of interspecies cooperation, wouldn't you?" Zaxxillian's skin rippled with colors that the universal translator interpreted as joy and deep respect. "Indeed, Captain Reyes, I believe we have both made history today." As the reality of their survival and incredible journey began to sink in, cheers and celebrations erupted across both ships. Humans and aliens alike embraced, their differences forgotten in the shared triumph over impossible odds. In the lab, Dr. Patel and Lirexa shared a moment of quiet relief, their hands intertwined in a gesture that bridged the gap between their species. "We did it," Patel said softly, tears of joy and exhaustion in her eyes. Lirexa's skin glowed with a warm, pulsing light. "No, Amira, we did it. Together." As the celebrations continued, Reyes couldn't help but feel that they stood on the brink of a new era. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The bonds forged between human and alien in the crucible of crisis would not be easily broken. But as she looked out at the unfamiliar stars, a new reality began to set in. They were far from home, in uncharted space, with two ships that had been pushed far beyond their design limits. Their greatest adventure, it seemed, was just beginning. Triumph of understanding. In the days following their miraculous escape from a hypernova, the crews of the ESS Horizon and the Luminous Seeker found themselves in a unique position. They were alive, against all odds, but lost in a distant corner of the galaxy, their ships battered and their resources depleted. Captain Reyes stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, gazing out at the unfamiliar star field. The Luminous Seeker floated nearby, its bioorganic hull still intertwined with human technology in a striking visual representation of their newfound partnership. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain." Dr. Patel's voice came from behind her. Reyes turned, offering a tired smile. "Just wondering what Earth would make of all this. We left on a routine exploration mission and ended up rewriting the books on physics, interstellar travel, and first contact protocols." Patel chuckled. "Just another day at the office, right?" Their laughter was interrupted by the arrival of Director Zaxxillian and Lirexa. The two aliens moved with the fluid grace that still fascinated their human counterparts. "Captain Reyes," Dr. Patel, Zaxxillian greeted them, his skin shimmering with colors that the universal translator now easily identified as respect and warmth. "We've completed our latest survey of the surrounding systems. I believe we have some promising options for resupply and repairs." As they discussed their situation, Reyes couldn't help but marvel at how seamlessly the two crews had integrated their operations. What had begun as a cautious cultural exchange had been forged into an unbreakable bond through their shared ordeal. "There's something else," Lirexa interjected, their skin flickering with excitement. "Our long-range scans have detected some anomalies in a nearby system. We believe they may be artificial in origin." Patel's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," Zaxxillian confirmed. "It appears we may not be alone out here. The signatures suggest a level of technology beyond even that of the Galactic Confederation." The implications hung heavy in the air. They had already made history with the first human Confederation contact. Now they faced the possibility of encountering an entirely new civilization, one that might reshape their understanding of the galaxy once again. Reyes took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "Well, I suppose we'd better go introduce ourselves. Wouldn't want to be rude neighbors." As they made preparations for their approach to the mysterious system, The integrated crews worked with a synergy that would have been unimaginable just weeks ago. Humans and aliens moved in perfect coordination, their strengths complementing each other in ways that continued to yield surprising innovations. In engineering, Vasquez and Trellix had turned their jury-rigged hybrid systems into something entirely new, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien bioengineering that promised to revolutionize space travel. "You know," Vasquez said as they made final adjustments to the drive, "when this is all over, we should patent this. Split the profits 50-50. Trellix's skin rippled with amusement. "My friend, where we're going, the concept of profit might be as alien as we once were to each other." Meanwhile, Dr. Patel and Lirexel worked tirelessly in the lab, preparing for all possible first contact scenarios. Their close partnership had blossomed into something deeper, a connection that transcended species and challenged both human and Confederation notions of relationship. "Amira," Lirexel said softly as they pored over data together, "no matter what we find out there, I want you to know that meeting you has changed my entire understanding of the universe." Patel smiled, reaching out to intertwine her fingers with Lirex's lower hand. "Funny, I was just about to say the same thing." As the ships approached the mysterious system, tension mounted. The unknown artifacts grew clearer on their sensors, vast structures that dwarfed anything in human or Confederation experience. On the bridge, Reyes and Zaxxlian stood side by side, a united front facing the unknown. "Are we really ready for this?" Reyes mused aloud. "Another first contact, so soon after our own." Zaxxlian's skin shimmered thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is precisely why we are ready, Captain. We have learned that our differences need not divide us. That lesson may prove invaluable in the moments to come." As if on cue, a massive energy signature bloomed on their sensors. A transmission, impossibly complex and utterly alien, washed over both ships. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge as both human and Confederation technology struggled to decipher the message. Then, slowly, fragments began to coalesce on their screens. "Welcome," the translation read, "Children of distant stars. We have awaited your arrival." Reyes and Zaxxlian exchanged a look of wonder and determination. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, a united front of two species who had learned that the greatest strength lies not in isolation, but in connection. "Well," Reyes said, a smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of the moment, "shall we go say hello?" Zaxxlian's skin glowed with a warm, affirming light. "Indeed, Captain. Let us show the galaxy what we can achieve when we stand united." As the Horizon and the luminous Seeker moved forward into the unknown, their crews stood ready. They had faced the crucible of crisis and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Whatever challenges awaited them in this new chapter of galactic history, they would face them not as humans and aliens, but as fellow explorers, united in their quest for knowledge and understanding. The story of humanity's journey to the stars had taken an unexpected turn, but as they prepared to make contact with yet another civilization, Reyes couldn't help but feel that they were exactly where they needed to be. The universe, it seemed, was vaster and more wondrous than they had ever imagined, and they were ready to embrace it together. As the massive alien structures loomed before them, Reyes gave the order to open a channel. In that moment, standing shoulder to shoulder or appendage to appendage, with their alien friends, the combined crew of the Horizon and the luminous Seeker prepared to write the next chapter in the grand cosmic story. The journey that had begun with a chance encounter between two curious species had led them to the threshold of something greater than they could have ever imagined. As they took their first steps into this new frontier, they carried with them a powerful message that in the vast, often terrifying expanse of the cosmos, it is our connections to one another that truly allow us to touch the stars. The end of one adventure, it seemed, was just the beginning of an even greater one. And as they faced the unknown together, human and alien alike felt a shared sense of awe, excitement, and hope for the future that lay ahead. In the grand tapestry of the universe, they had woven a new pattern, one of unity, understanding, and boundless potential. And as they prepared to make contact once again, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not as separate species, but as one united crew, bound by their shared love of exploration and their newfound understanding of each other. The stars beckoned, and together they answered the call.